Hello students, welcome to another lesson presented by the Learning Depot. In today's lesson, we are going to learn how to reduce adjective clauses.
An adjective clause, also known as an adjectival or relative clause, is a dependent clause that modifies a noun or a pronoun. In effect, this clause functions as one part of speech, the adjective. Adjective clauses begin with a relative pronoun such as that, which, or who. In today's lesson, we are going to take an in-depth look at the different ways you can reduce the adjective clause, as well as when you should not or cannot reduce the clause.
Let's begin.
There are basically 5 ways you can reduce the adjective clause to its 5 parts of speech. The adjective clause can be reduced to an adjective phrase, a present participle, a past participle, and a prepositional phrase. Let's look at this example. Macy's car, which is new, is very expensive. In this example, which is new is the adjective clause, also a non-defining clause. If we remove which and is, which is a relative pronoun and is the be verb, we are left with the adjective new. But we can't say Macy's car, new, is very expensive. We have to move the order of the word new and place it before the noun, car. Macy's new car is very expensive. In this case, we have reduced the adjective clause down to a simple adjective. The rules which were passed by the board take effect at midnight. The adjective clause here, which were passed by the board, begins with the relative pronoun which and is followed by a be verb. We remove both, and now we are left with the rules passed by the board take effect at midnight. In this case, passed by the board is an adjective phrase using the past participle, passed. The boy who is crossing the street goes to my school. Who is crossing the street is the adjective clause. If we remove who and is, we are left with crossing the street. In this case, we also have an adjective phrase, but in the present participle form. Let's look at an example where we reduce the adjective clause just down to a past participle. The table that was broken was thrown in the recycling bin. This is a case where we use the past participle, broken, and put it in front of table, and it's working as an adjective. The broken table was thrown in the recycling bin. So we remove the relative pronoun and the verb was, and we are left with broken. We place it in front of the noun. The broken table was thrown in the recycling bin. Now let's look at an example of the adjective clause reduced to a present participle. The phone that is ringing belongs to my roommate. In this example, the adjective clause is that is ringing. We can remove that and is, and we are left with ringing. But we don't say the phone ringing belongs to my roommate. We place the present participle, ringing, before the noun, phone, and now we have an adjective. The ringing phone belongs to my roommate. And in this last example of parts of speech, the books that are in the bookshelf belong to my teacher. We remove the relative pronoun that and the verb are, and now we have the books in the bookshelf belong to my teacher. So we've in essence reduced the relative clause down to a simple prepositional phrase. The books in the bookshelf belong to my teacher. In the previous lesson, you learned how to reduce the adjective clause with the be verb. Let's look at how to reduce with the non-be verbs. It is important to note that when the verb follows a relative pronoun and it is not the verb to be, a form of the be verb, it must be changed to a present participle. Let's look at this example. The book that discusses animal migration is out of print. In this case, we change discusses to discussing. The book discussing animal migration is out of print. Yoga is an exercise form that requires discipline. Yoga is an exercise form requiring discipline. Now let's look at when you cannot or should not reduce the adjective clause. Sentences with a verb immediately after the relative pronoun usually can be reduced. If there's a subject after the relative pronoun, then that clause should not be reduced. Also, an adjective clause should not be reduced for a completed action. Verbs must convey a continuous or progressive tense or idea. If it conveys a completed action, it should not be reduced. And lastly, the relative clause should not be reduced if the subject in the relative clause is different from the one in the main clause. Let's look at some examples. I am meeting the author who wrote the bestseller. In this example, the relative clause, who wrote the bestseller, should not be reduced, because if we say, I am meeting the author writing the bestseller, it conveys a sense that the author is still writing the bestseller, while the sentence originally states that he already wrote the bestseller. So again, remember the first thing is that you cannot reduce for a completed action, and this sentence conveys a completed action. Let's look at this example. I have a friend who is traveling to France. In this example, we should not reduce the clause, who is traveling to France. The subject in the relative clause is different from the one in the main clause. In essence, you have two sentences. I have a friend. My friend is traveling to France. Therefore, you would not say, I have a friend traveling to France. It is semantically dubious. There is no reduction in this case. Let's look at sentences where the relative pronoun that is just removed. Like in this sentence, the burger that I ate last night was too greasy. In this sentence, yes, that is an object pronoun, and we can delete it. And the new sentence is, the burger I ate last night was too greasy. You could argue that this is a reduction, but technically it isn't. This is an example of an elliptical sentence, and we will cover this in another video. Here's another example. The book that Sam borrowed from the library is due tomorrow. The book Sam borrowed from the library is due tomorrow. Again, these are not technically reductions, but elliptical sentences.
How did you do? Go back and review the parts of the lesson that you did not understand. And if you learned something in this lesson, please remember to subscribe and hit the like button. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.